I'm bored. Let's read a book. Oh!
Gibberish. I ignored that also, trying to find the words. What Antonin is doing is creating a greater potential for chaos in both countries. By sending out Gallian troops to their deaths, he increases anger in Gallos, both at the prefect and at Kryphros. He increases anger and disorder in Kyphros by increasing disorder. He makes more people susceptible to chaos and less willing to abide by the rules of order, more willing to become a part of the killing. I don't know the complete link, but as the disorder increases, so do his powers. My stomach twisted as I began to realize what part I had just unwittingly played in Antonin's game. I see, the Audarch's voice was cold. If you are correct, we cannot win. If we defend ourselves, we increase the disorder, and if we do not, we perish, and our suffering and deaths will thus increase the disorder. I wish she had not put it that way. What has not mighty Recluce opposed to this great wizard? Asked Liessa, her voice cutting. Krista looked at me. Do you know? I thanked her with my eyes for the direct question. I do not know for certain the answer to that question. I do know that Recluce seldom meddles with nations other than the other coastal trading powers. Even that evasion turned my guts again. I was reprieved momentarily for the more twisting of the arrival of the main course. Skewered and highly spiced lamb. You're saying that this wizard has no real military aims at all, then? His aims are power for himself, and the white wizards who follow him. He would destroy both your countries, I think. To increase those powers, all of his is very theoretical and philosophical, interjected the public works minister. Could you tell us what specifically you've done against this danger? If you've done anything besides observe, that is. Instead of snapping at him, I chewed and swallowed the lamb cube in my mouth. As if I were paying this highly for my meal, I deserved to eat some of it. The only problem was that no one else talked while I ate, and that the silence was leaden. I ended up opening my mouth again after several more bites. I have done what I could. I destroyed the Chaos Fountain, and although I did not mean to, also created the events that led to the death of a score more of the prefect's more chaos-ridden troops, including the sub-prefect. You did not mean to stop chaos? Demanded the priest in a high voice. I sighed. Explaining the intricacies was getting more and more dangerous, and I knew none of the people except Crystal. While not a one manifested chaos or disorder, they could easily order my death for less fantastic reasons. You sound almost exasperated, young Ordermaster, observed the Audarch. Perhaps you could explain your feelings first. Shrugging, I turned to her. She was the judge anyway. You have to understand that I'm not from Kyphros nor from Gallos. The crafter in Gallos took me in and enabled me to learn more of both order and woodworking. This order threatened his family, and I employed order to strengthen, honestly, his business and his health. I, also being what I am, could not but help embody some order in the chairs and cabinets I produced. I turned to Crystal. Would you recall what occurs when a black staff strikes chaos? She did not quite frown, but paused. Doesn't the staff burn someone possessed of disorder? I nodded. Then I grinned. Looking around the table, my first mistake was to craft some black oak chairs for the sub-prefect. My second error was to make them as perfect as I could and to infuse them with the order to strengthen them. What do you think happened when the chaos-tainted advisors of the prefect sat in those chairs? Ha! Oh, I nodded. That meant I had to leave Gallus, but I could not leave the crafter unprotected. After all, the chairs would be traced in time to his shop. So I entered the palace in an attempt to do something. What? I was not sure. That didn't work out because I found that attempting to force order on anyone unwilling to receive it is difficult at best. I did neutralize the chaos fountain and turned it back into mere decoration. Then I left Vennard and came to Kyphros. Did you have anything to do with the death of the White Wizard? That question came from Farrell. She sounded vaguely amused, why I couldn't imagine. That was a lucky accident. I tried to stuff another lamb cube in my mouth before answering another question. Accident? Well, I mumbled before gulping the piece of lamb. The meat burned and scraped all the way down my throat. I wanted to do was let the two Kypherian captives free, but the wizard kept throwing white fire at me, and his fire and my staff collided too close to him. How did that happen? Farrell was almost smiling. I could have sworn. I charged him. Do you have a warhorse, Order Master? A charger? No, just a pony. Someone sniggered. Farrell glared at Liesa, who paled. That surprised me. Then she turned to the otter, who looked amused, rather than surprised, and added, It sounds fantastic, but it happened that way, except for one detail. No one saw our friend here. Is that yours? She held up my belt knife. I nodded. The unseen wizard who defeated the White Wizard cut the bonds of my lieutenant, left the knife in her hands, and told her to cut the other captive free. She did not see the charge, but she did hear the White Wizard screaming about an unseen armed man. She also saw the firebolt striking against something until one exploded right in front of the wizard. Our friend here, or someone dressed exactly like him riding a pony exactly like his, appeared for just an instant. She handed me the knife, which I quickly replaced in my empty sheath. You didn't tell me all of that, Crystal added dryly. I think I flushed. It seemed pretty dumb. I never meant to take on a full White Wizard. It just happened. What are you intending on doing next? I don't know. I just don't know. So of course I had to tell them, or suffer indigestion. I don't have much of a choice. I have to go find Antonin. The Great White Wizard? Yes. Farrell looked at the Audark, and the Audark looked at Crystal. After that, they let me finish my dinner. I mean, what else was there to say? They did talk, finally, among themselves. Has he always been this modest? Farrell smiled as she asked Crystal. He was never boastful, but he does seem more quiet. Perhaps the sub-commander or the Order Master could answer your question, suggested the Audark. Crystal, we ought to let our guest have a few moments of peace. A wry look flashed across Crystal's face before she spoke. Recluce is governed by the Brotherhood. They are Black Order masters. Recluce has always let chaos rule in any area outside Recluce, unless the Brotherhood feels that chaos threatens or hurts Recluce. Anyone they think might ever create disorder must either leave or undergo a trial by exile to prove their commitment to the absolute order of Recluce. Everyone? Surely the children of the powerful, questioned Murius, the heavy-set finance minister. Crystal and I exchanged glances. An exchange noted by Casey, although she said nothing. No, they are true believers. I know of a case where the son of one of the highest of the Brotherhood was exiled years earlier than any other child would have been, perhaps to prove that no one is above the law. Liesa looked at me from the other end of the table, and I nodded imperceptibly. Heck, all of Kyphros would know my history before I ever got out of Kyphrian. The way things were going, and there wasn't much I could do about it. After the dinner came small cups of a hot mulled cider, along with a nut-filled pastry soaked in honey. I took my best behavior not to use my fingers to wipe up the last of the honey on the plate. I didn't want to disgrace Crystal, but I'd had a few sweets since leaving home, and I hadn't realized how much I missed them. Will you be staying long? I'd missed the first part of Minister Zebra's question, but the intent was clear. No. What are your plans? I shrugged. To do what has to be done. This is rather ambitious, although rather vague. It is vague, I agreed cheerfully, with a growing awareness of the man's underlying venality. Crystal's face was impassive, but I could sense the humor beneath the facade. I'm afraid tomorrow will come early, announced Casey the Audark. She rose from her chair. Crystal, thank you for sharing the Order Master with us. And you, Laris, we appreciate your candor and your willingness to enlighten us. The ruler nodded toward the guard commander. Thank you, Order Master, added Farrell, especially for your rescue attempt and the accidental charge. You saved a good score by taking out that wizard. I joined the returning of your knife, and I wouldn't disabuse the guard by revealing the accidental nature of your success. I appreciate your kindness and your retrieving of my knife. Farrell nodded and followed the Autarch out. We were right behind, but outside the dining room in the red oak paneled hallway, the Autarch and Farrell headed right. I followed Crystal to the left, down the dimly lit halls, feet echoing in the hushed corridors. In time we reached Crystal's quarters, where the faithful herald waited. He had the door even open before we had finished turning the last corner. That will be all, Herald. He looked at me and back to Crystal. If I need anything, I'll ring the order desk. Her smile was present, but formal. Good night. Good night, Commander. Thunk. Crystal dropped the heavy bar in place with ease of long practice. He wasn't too pleased to see me come in. Crystal didn't bother to answer the question. Instead, unbelted her sword and carried it into her bedroom. The thuds came from the heavy boots, not the sword. She returned barefoot, still wearing the blouse, vest, and trousers she had had on at dinner. Let's sit on the balcony for a little while. Outside, a cool breeze caressed my face. Crystal took the right-hand chair and seated herself in the darkness. I sat and looked over the railing. There seemed to be more lamps in the guard yard below than in what else I could see of Kyphrian. Even the area below seemed dimly lit for the guard force of a capital city. People go to bed early. The prince of candles and lamp oil has doubled since midsummer. Oh, the war? Crystal snorted. Oil comes mainly from Spidler or Sirtis, and the prefect wouldn't let merchants cross Gallus to reach us. He has also had an agreement with the Viscount of Sirtis. Between the two of them and the merchants is greed. Food? We eat a lot of goats, cheese, and olives these days, and beans. We mustn't forget the beans. You sound tired. I am tired, Laris. We all are. Me, Farrell, Liesa, and especially Casey. She's aged 10 years in the past year, dealing with the Marias alone. It's no banquet, but we need her as much as the finest. She leaned back on the balcony chair in the darkness, her voice low. Obtaining the best troops money can buy? That had to be the strategy. While Kyphrians like Sherwood and Pendrell will find people, they didn't make the disciplined force necessary to pick off Antonin's madman one at a time.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on any of my videos. See y'all in the next one. Goodbye!